Other necessities. On our first pass through the Princeton Learning Cooperative income statements, I skipped over all the expenses that were less than $1,000 for the year. Though they are individually small amounts, they add up to a total of 7% of the annual budget, which is not insignificant. Let's take a look at what these expenses are, just to make sure we're not missing anything financially. These budget categories include advertising, website, books, subscriptions, reference, postage, mail, and supplies. Advertising is important since it will enable other teens to find out about your learning center. That being said, you can advertise without spending money using free resources. The most popular and common approach to this is social media. If you can reach teens in your community and neighboring communities through social media, I highly recommend it. It may seem scary at first reaching out to communities outside of your own. When I grew up, my parents' house was a block away from the next town over. Because of this invisible line, I pretty much never got to know anyone in that town. It was like a foreign territory not to be explored. As an adult, I realized these invisible lines were an unnecessary barrier to meeting and connecting with others. Stretch your comfort zone and expand your reach to neighboring communities to find the right people to join your learning center. If you do want to spend some money on advertising, I've had a lot of success with Snapchat. In fact, there's a good chance that's how you found out about this app. Snapchat allows you to cost-effectively target a specific town and age range with your message. For as little as $20, I've been able to get the word out about comedy shows to an entire community of teens. The key is to make sure it is very clear that your ad is directed at teens living in that community. When someone sees the ad and they know it was intended specifically for them, they are far more likely to click on it. When I promoted my comedy shows, I dressed in a wacky costume and used a green screen to put the local high school behind me in my ads. This made it very clear that my ad was intended for young people in that specific city. The fact I was dressed so ridiculous conveyed that there was something funny involved. Once they swipe up on my ad, then they would see a regular video of me talking to them to promote my upcoming show. So I got their attention first and then shared my specific message. Aside from social media, you can try posting flyers around your school or in community areas where teens like to hang out. You will know better than I do where teens hang out in your area, maybe the movie theater, coffee shop, miniature golf course, arcade, or skate park. Be sure to post something at the library too. Even though it's not a teen-specific space, any teen already visiting the library is likely to be highly interested in your self-directed learning center. When doing marketing or advertising, always be careful about the words you use to communicate to your intended audience. If you have listened to this entire app, you may have learned some new vocabulary words that your average teen may not understand. Lastly, I hope to make the Peer Unschooling Network website a place where people who listen to this audiobook can find each other to organize their local groups. I'm doing my best to get the word out with this app, but don't rely on me. Though PUN has members from around the world, I cannot guarantee it is the best place to find peers in your immediate location. The next expense on the income statement is websites. If you want to create a website, you can get a simple free website on Weebly.com, Wix.com, or WordPress.com. As a small warning, having a website could potentially give people the impression you are an organization. Tread carefully with that decision. If needed, you can get your own domain name for about $15 a year from GoDaddy. If the idea of building websites excites you, I have some tutorial videos on my personal site at jim-flannery.com that can help you build more elaborate sites. The category on the income statement for books, subscriptions, and reference is completely covered by the library. You don't have to worry about this expense at all. In case you are not aware, libraries have subscriptions to many journals, magazines, and news sources, including online versions of the content. Libraries also do interlibrary loans, so if your library does not have a book you want, they can often contact other libraries and have it loaned to your library at no charge. This is an unbelievable resource that very few people are even aware of. Many libraries also have subscriptions to software, like the Adobe software suite. I have to pay $30 a month fee for all my Adobe software, but many libraries get this completely free. Always check with them to see what they have available, and let the librarians know if there is something you want to get which they don't have. It is their job to serve the community's needs, which includes yours. Don't be shy to express your needs. For the postage and mail expense, you can probably get by in 99% of cases with digital communications, like email. While this isn't exactly postage or mail, it makes sense to mention here, when I have had to send faxes, which is rare, I use faxzero.com to send them for free. The last expense mentioned in the income statement is supplies, which is pretty vague and nonspecific. Supplies could include art materials, computer accessories, music instruments, paper and pens, power tools and building materials, or any other material or item you might need to aid your self-directed learning. Obviously, these can be bought with money, but let's explore the methods of getting your hands on free supplies without spending money. North Star developed a great tactic for obtaining free resources for their teens by putting out a quarterly printed newsletter. The newsletter contains articles written by staff, teens, and alumni with updates about what's happening at North Star. Every issue of the newsletter also includes a wish list where they ask for specific things the teens are trying to get their hands on. Here is an example of their most recent wish list, reference 196. Wish list. Items: outdoor furniture, bowls for eating, quality kitchen knives, cutting boards, baking pans and sheets, stand or handheld mixer, computers and tablets in good condition, 3D printer, graduated cylinders, black and white 35mm film, USB-C to USB dongle, handheld dry erase boards, room darkening shades, houseplants, perennial garden plants, landscaping materials, quality basketball hoop, guitar strings, drum skins, amp, ukulele, white noise machine, volunteer skills, paving of our parking lot, handyman or woman, snow plowing services, solar power, teachers in a variety of topics. Also, renters for our building on evenings, weekends, and summer, an endowment, contact information, info@northstarteens.org. Again, that's reference 196. You could always produce and ship out your own newsletter, like North Star does, but that may be a bit of a stretch for a new group because of the time and cost to produce the newsletter. Instead, you could create a newsletter and publish it online. The Brooklyn Apple Academy puts out a monthly newsletter called the Apple Gazette, featuring comics and photos and interviews, which they sell at their learning center in a printed format, but also distribute for free online, reference 197. Though they do not have a wish list, they could very easily use this newsletter to request support. You could always post a wish list on your website if you make one. However, not many people are likely to visit your website on a regular basis. It's more important to get this list of needs directly in front of people, so be sure to create an email list that you can send out information through. Even posting your wish list as a flyer on the walls of the library, community center, local coffee shops, post office, or other venues could get your words in front of people. To be clear, you don't necessarily need to create a whole newsletter to ask for support. A direct request for donated supplies and materials can be just as effective. You could also use social media to reach out to other teens in your network to ask for supplies. You may also find support by reaching out to adults in your community. One useful tool for doing so is nextdoor.com, which is a free social networking app that allows you to post messages to reach adults in your neighborhood. Another option is to call local businesses directly who may have specific items you are looking for and ask for donations. For example, if you are looking for tools, maybe a local construction company has extra ones they no longer use that they'd be willing to donate. Even if you think they'll say no, reaching out and asking isn't a horrible way of letting them know your group exists, which could make it easier to reach out in the future to ask them to be volunteers. I know it sounds difficult to reach out and ask for help. In our modern society, we so often avoid being vulnerable and asking for help. However, it truly is a great way to reach people and make connections. I remember hitchhiking last year in Ireland, and I actually built great connections with the people who offered me rides, far more meaningful than I would have developed by riding the bus. Lastly, and certainly not least, you can also find supplies at the local dump. This may sound like garbage picking, because it is, but lots of communities have a section of their local dump called the drop and pick, where people leave useful items they no longer want and allow other people to take them for free. You never know what you'll find. My brother-in-law is a master of the drop and pick and has found brand new skis and tons of tools he uses at his heating and air conditioning company. One time, when I watched his 5 kids while he and my sister were away for a week, we all went to the dump for an adventure and came back with all sorts of fun supplies and created a holiday scene on their front lawn with trash. When searching Google for the local dump, you may want to use the term transfer station, which is the more technical term for these places. Transportation. At this stage, I hope that I've convinced you that it is possible to get a great education without school, and that it is feasible to organize a zero-tuition, student-led learning center in your community. The anti-fragile model I've described will work because the 2 primary failure mechanisms of self-directed learning centers are solved: the money problem and the people problem. However, just because your learning center won't fail doesn't mean it is going to thrive. There are still a handful of obstacles to overcome. Transportation is, in my opinion, the biggest hurdle to making this idea take off. The public schools have this problem solved quite effectively. A free bus shows up in front of every kid's home every morning to pick them up and drop them off at school. Without such a system already in place, you'll have to get creative on how you'll get to your learning center. Transportation is not a problem that is unique to your learning center. Transportation is also a problem for the Liberated Learner Centers, Agile Learning Centers, and Sudbury schools. All of them require the youth to find a way to get to the learning center on their own. Some walk, some ride bikes or skateboards, some take the city bus, and many get rides from parents. Where your learning center is located will make a big impact on how people are able to get there. Neil Karkanis attends a Sudbury school in New Jersey during half the school year and one in Florida during the other half of the school year. When I interviewed him, he emphasized the impact location and setting had on transportation. It's different for everyone. For cities and places that have easy public transport, it's easier to get to school. In Jersey, we have a huge campus, like a YMCA, where we can walk around for hours. That's a benefit to us. I remember Dylan rode an Uber back from school for a while because obviously not every parent can get their kids to school if they have to work or things like that. The school does adapt differently if it's a suburban area, a rural area, or a big city. The biggest differences are how you get there and what you can do off campus. Reference 198. Several founders of learning centers have expressed that when choosing a location to open their center, being located along a bus line or near a train station was a critical feature. At Workspace Education in Bethel, Connecticut, the executive director even contacted the town and requested that they reroute the local bus lines to ensure the bus would pass directly by their location. In many towns and cities, the library will be on the bus line, which again makes it a great place to set as your headquarters. When the local bus line is not a valid option, you've got to be innovative and collaborative. Maybe you can organize a carpool where older kids with driver's licenses can offer to pick up younger kids. Maybe some parents are willing to collaborate to offer rides to other kids on certain days. Maybe you can use Uber or Lyft. You can even go to town meetings to get rules changed to allow you to take the regular school bus and simply get off at a stop near the library. In the town I grew up in, the middle school, high school, and the local library were all within a few blocks of each other. During my teen years, I could hypothetically have taken the bus to school and walked to the library every day, if they allowed me to. In truth, I would likely have had to fight an uphill battle with the administration for that right, since homeschoolers are typically excluded from using the school bus. Reference 199. While it seems fair to request that you be able to ride the bus since it's already going by your house and you are saving the town a lot of money by not attending school, there tend to be strict policies and rules against deviating from the norm. In some cases, exceptions will be made if you are an individual and you keep fairly quiet. In other cases, there is a lot of value in having strength in numbers. And having a large group of teens show up to a town council meeting demanding the right to ride the bus could be more effective. If you're not allowed to ride the school bus, similar tactics could be used to demand free access to the local bus. I contacted Margie Sanderson, a grown unschooler who is a board member for the National Youth Rights Association, and she told me that she is actively involved in a campaign like this right now in British Columbia, Canada. The All on Board campaign is advocating for free transit on public transportation for youth ages 0 through 18 and a sliding scale based on income for monthly passes for all adults. Reference 200. Programs like this already exist in cities like Philadelphia, where they've completely done away with school buses in favor of giving youth free access to public buses. As Margie describes, in Philadelphia, young people can get free transit passes as an alternative to the district offering school busing. It's a great system. This is sort of an intersection of disregard for young people and immense auto-orientation. The North American obsession with the private car has left our transit and bike infrastructure lagging far behind. But now with the growing climate crisis, there are some cities starting to pay attention and trying to catch up. There's some cool work being done with UNICEF's Child-Friendly Cities initiative, Tim Gill's Rethinking Childhood, and projects like Growing Up Boulder that are pushing to address the need for young people to be taken into account in urban planning, including, of course, transportation. In my opinion, it'd be awesome to see more cities adopt a similar model to Philadelphia's TransPass system because it A, does away with the school bus and utilizes an already present and more efficient resource, the public transit, B, builds the habit of transit ridership as opposed to private vehicle ridership, and C, is accessible to everyone, whether in school or unschooled. In my true ideal future, we'd have free public transit for all. Reference 201. Allowing youth free access to public transportation would solve a lot of problems related to youth liberation. Ken Danford at North Star shared with me that in Western Massachusetts, the college students are allowed to ride the local bus for free, yet teens still have to pay. Reference 202. Margie Sanderson shared a similar story about the city of Vancouver in British Columbia. Vancouver also has the situation of offering free transit to college students, but not high school students, through a program called the U-Pass. At least here, though, the U-Pass is subsidized by the colleges, so it's not the public system that's paying for the college students' free access, but their own tuition money. Reference 203. I'm sure it sounds challenging to get rules and policies changed in your community, but it is possible. For example, through effective organizing in Raleigh, North Carolina, teens can ride the bus free as of August 2018. Reference 204. If the public transportation option is not available to you, there are private options, though they do cost money. A startup company called Hop Skip Drive launched in 2015 and offers rides for youth age 6 to 17 to and from school. It's like Uber for kids, except the drivers all have at least 5 years of experience in childcare. They are currently operating in California, Central Colorado, Washington, D.C., Virginia, Arizona, Southern Texas, and around Seattle, Washington. Reference 205. Getting to and from your learning center is important. Also important is being able to leave in the middle of the day to go to other places. Whether you're looking to go to another location because a class or academic activity is taking place somewhere else in the community, or because you want to take a break from learning and grab lunch or play in the park, it's helpful to be able to get around. For this reason, many learning centers find it helpful to be located in areas within walking distance to resources like shopping centers, community centers, restaurants, and public parks.